Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff Phillips with Accountingfly, calling in from New York City. On the road this week in New York, seeing some clients, and I'm staying in a friend's apartment and had a Wi-Fi issue crash me. So I apologize that we're starting just a couple minutes late. But we will not take up the whole hour for sure. This will be a short conversation about recruiting process, and hopefully what it will accomplish is give you 2 or 3 major takeaways that you could change in your own process. And a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We are recording today's session. Secondly, you have a question panel in GoToWebinar. I'd love for you to use that and ask questions. I'll take questions at the end. In fact, if you do me a favor and just confirm that you can hear me, if you can type into that question panel that you can hear me loud and clear, that way I don't talk into a muted phone for the next 20, 30, 45 minutes. And so I want to see if anybody can hear me. Oh, here we go. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, fantastic. Oh, it's good to see some friendly names on the call as well. So thank you guys for being here. Very good. We will get started. Please ask questions at the end. During the presentation, I will be able to stop down and just kind of have a conversation and answer the questions as they come in. Very informal. There will be no CPE for this. This is not a CPE course. Most folks on this call are in the administrator or HR role, so we're not doing any CPE. So an analogy to start here. I've always been in the sales profession, and recruiting is 100% sales, no doubt about it. And in sales, there is a pipeline to be built. You've got to generate awareness. You've got to then generate interest, and you've got to nurture that interest so that somebody then will become interested in buying in the transaction. And it takes process to get there. And I remember being in early days of selling at American Express, and I really was naive enough to think that, well, I have a good personality, I'm honest, and I work very hard, so I'll have no trouble succeeding at sales just because I'm a good guy. Well, I was wrong. I fell flat on my face in those early days. And yes, I can talk to a wall, but it really didn't make a bunch of difference because I wasn't organized. And recruiting process is very similar to that. You've got to. There's so much that goes into getting somebody to apply to a job. And one of the things that's changed, and you're all feeling it, is the economy. So now accountants are in such high demand. They're hard to hire and get applicants for inside public accounting firms. And we're all struggling with that. And we're in that fight too. We are working daily to get candidates to our employer clients. And it's not easy. Well, but there's a process to it. And one of the biggest things that's changed is when the economy changed and it became an employees market. Okay, no longer an employer's market. Now that it's an employees market, the onus is on you to sell. And the process of selling requires building a brand and articulating it and using marketing to build awareness and nurturing the people inside the funnel and leading them through the process of the transaction, which is an apply. The problem with public accounting and recruiting, and one of the reasons where we've seen so much struggle, is that accounting firms spend 100% of their energy and their budget on the very last part of the funnel, the apply, the transaction. And that's what you get when you buy job postings on most job boards. That's what you get when you buy LinkedIn job postings, even LinkedIn Recruiter. You're not spending money at the branding level, at the awareness level. Well, that isn't effective any longer. And so we talk about that to kind of tee up what today is all about. I'm going to spend most of the time talking about the process that happens once you acquire a candidate and how to take a few easy steps that I think could be very useful in improving your results. And, you know, one of the interesting things is, what good is getting these applicants if we don't have a process to work them? I'm reminded of a story, the cautionary tale here. One of our clients was hiring for a manager level, and we were all really excited to see that a manager from Deloitte who was relocating to our client's city had applied on Accountingfly. That was a win for everybody. But the client was notified as soon as the application came in. Well, unfortunately, she waited 4 days before she got back to the candidate. And by the time the candidate, she got in touch with the candidate, he was already so deep into interviews with another firm that he was no longer interested. And what this is a symptom of just not having the right process and prioritizing the right behaviors around recruiting. So foundations here is, keep in mind that with the changing economy, your process ought to involve the sales process too, putting people in the top end of the funnel. And I can spend a little more time talking about that because it's so important to that process. And it's sort of based around this one simple fact, right? And I don't even have to, I've given this presentation a few times, and I don't even have to talk about this statement, the race for talent is over and the talent has won. It's now just an accept. And it's important for us to accept that the talent has won. It is a talent market, and I have to tell you, in public accounting, that is not going to change even with the economy. When the economy turns south again, it won't really change because of the looming retirements of so many baby boomers in public accounting. We're always going to have to be selling candidates, and that just requires a change of process. All right, so we'll keep going. Many of you have seen this slide. I've shown it before. It does speak to sort of what's happening in our profession. We're having more college graduates enter the profession than ever before, and yet they're not sticking around to take the CPA exam. They're bailing out of public accounting. And so the number of people that start the CPA exam are down to 2006 levels. So it's a 10-year low. I'm not sure what to make of it. I just know that it's important. And it's a signal that, you know, it's hard to recruit seniors and managers. I can tell you a lot of success stories. Many of you that are on this call that are making hires, and many of you that aren't. And one of the reasons is there is not a lot of them out there. But that doesn't mean you can't fill these important roles. You know, many of you know we are huge fans of Boomer Consulting and Sandra Wiley. I wanted to share one interesting thing about what they're working on is a retention study. So this is a study of people who have left public accounting firms, Boomer Consulting clients. They were able to get together over 500 responses, very detailed information asking, why did you leave? Where did you go? Why did you leave our clients? The research is still being compiled, but too early of evidence or information that came out was, of the 500 or so that left in the last 5 years, 92% of them left to go for private industry jobs. Okay? I'm not totally shocked by that number, but it does seem high. The other interesting statistic was when asked why they left, 72% they left these public accounting firms because of work-life balance issues. So maybe part of the story here of why people aren't sticking around for the CPA exam is a frustration with the public accounting profession. Many of you are at firms that are leading the charge of offering more flexible workplaces and stepping up, you know, some of the HR decisions, the policy decisions that can create some culture. If you're struggling there, we may have some advice for you. So let's talk about the process. Well, fast forward through, what it's going to take to build a brand and what it's going to take to attract candidates. I want to talk about how do you execute when you get a candidate. And this is a slide from back when we were called College Frog, and we worked primarily with companies helping them hire accounting students. So it's an old slide, but it's kind of it's a relic at our company. And what we realized when we started surveying our clients was that 85% of their recruiting work was done on administrative tasks, not selling candidates. And remember, in this economy, we got to sell. So it's true probably still today when it comes to the part of your job that is recruiting. Some of you are HR leaders and you're also doing payroll, you're doing benefits, you're doing HR management. But when it comes to your recruiting work, there's too much administrative tasks involved. How do we create some flow here? What could we outsource, and how could you automate some of the tasks? So the idea is that we're switching this. Most of your time is spent talking to candidates, responding quickly, getting into negotiations. All right? So a good process is going to eliminate data entry. In the accounting profession, there isn't a lot of staff to support HR. All right? I bet you're nodding your heads right now. So if it's up to you, how are we going to eliminate some of the busy work that that might be overwhelming you now? Okay? A good process will allow you to respond faster, or will allow someone to respond faster. And make no mistake, in this day and age when we have to sell candidates, that speaks volumes about the importance of candidate experience. And a candidate is like a sales lead or potential client. It's a perishable good. And you want to give them a great experience. Have you ever stopped and thought about what your organization's candidate experience should be? Most firms haven't. And I can tell you one thing that is not a very good candidate experience is never responding to people that apply to you. And it's a shame because when you recruit on the internet, and we're an internet recruiting service, you get a lot of candidates that aren't qualified. So you have to think about what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. I know for us, one thing that has helped our business in terms of responding is there are some things that you can automate. We use a product called Yesware, where and Boomerang is another one that plugs into our email, where a lot of your responses for candidates might be the exact same kind of templated response. So you can create email templates, and if you get a candidate that you like, you could respond to their email address or respond to them inside Accountingfly, whatever system you use, and you're just inserting email templates. It saves you a minute or 2 minutes of writing a response. But over a lot of candidates, that saves you a great deal of time. You want a process that others can easily access your notes and your documents, transcripts, whatever it is. And you want a process that can build talent pools for the future. And while we're talking about what to do once you get a candidate, I feel it's really kind of weighing on me too that the recruiting process is a lot more than just what you do when you get a candidate, because we've learned so much about what it takes to recruit seniors and managers. There are a lot of processes you can put in place just to acquire the candidates, like define your employer brand by answering our 5 questions. If you're not familiar with the 5 questions, through research of our own CPA community, we've asked them what they care about in their next job and their employers. And those candidates gave us a lot of data points. We boiled that into five questions that you want to ask yourself to build an employer brand. When we do videos for our clients, we actually ask those 5 questions in various forms so that data gets out. So define your brand by answering the 5 questions. Determine to promote that brand through multiple channels. job boards, social media, blogs, your website, events. Number 3 is make sure that your entire team is hitting on your employer brand, what you guys define as your brand, in every talking point, in every interview, and on-campus interviews, so they hit the exact same points. If you'd like more information about our 5 questions, just send me an email, jeff@accountingfly.com, and we'll be happy to send you that information. So then you got to distribute the brand, right? And that means posting jobs and also being on online for marketing purposes. Now we're getting candidate flow. And so your process is going to make or break making a hire. It's so hard to hire accountants. You've got to get rid of the entry data. You have to respond incredibly fast. You have to have a team around you that can interview fast. You've got to be able to pull together an offer fast. So do you have the salary ranges ready to go? You need for others to be able to see the information. And then lastly, you want to start accumulating talent pools so that next time an audit senior walks out of your office to go work at the hospital down the street, you don't have to start from scratch. And it's called building talent pools is all about making your life a heck of a lot easier the next time around somebody leaves. So let's just go into some details here. Recruitment is a campaign, not a job posting. I've covered a lot of this already of what Accountingfly is. I'm going to skip that. I mentioned how we distribute getting the word out. So the process, and I've spoken a lot about this already, but the process of marketing involves articulating your brand, and step 2, distributing your brand. Use video, write articles, or have somebody write articles, get those articles distributed from your state society, get them distributed on Accountingfly or Going Concern. Have a process for writing your job postings. Or if you're an Accountingfly client, let us write them for you. But and a quick word on the process of writing a posting. You should have a template. And we got to get past the old style of job descriptions. The following is not a good job description. Job title, senior accountant. Responsibilities, prepare tax returns for corporations. Requirements, 3 years plus a CPA. If we got to sell candidates, then we have to change our process about how we even write job postings. And here's what a job posting is. Job posting is the landing page for your recruitment campaign. And it must be well written, and it must be marketing forward. And it must answer the 5 questions. Why work in our size firm? What is the culture? What should high performers expect out of if they do a good job here? Why should I trust my career to your firm? You need to answer those questions in the job postings. You need to answer those questions in your profile on Accountingfly, or on your company LinkedIn profile, your company Facebook profile. And all these communications need to be integrated. But as far as saving time, that template for a job posting, the company description, the firm description, and the flavor of the posting is a template. Now you just got to fill in the job title and the certain requirements that are very important. But my advice is make sure you're selling the company, selling the firm in your job posting. Just a quick example of a job posting that we thought was excellent. So this firm, Catching Clouds, has made some pretty strong hires on Accountingfly, and they actually use the first paragraph of their job posting to sell the company. We are a modern, dynamic, and virtual business that is looking for fun and dynamic people who match our culture and looking to change the way accounting is provided to businesses. We want you if you are a fast learner, entrepreneurial, or analytical. We just learned a lot about Catching Clouds and their culture, why you should trust them to your firm. Later on, the posting goes on to talk about if you're a high performer at our firm, the sky's the limit. You're creating your own career path. We haven't even talked about requirements. Instead of requirements, they're actually talking about you're an ideal fit if, and they're describing values. I love this job posting. And it's no secret that when they posted it, we helped them write it, when they posted this job on Accountingfly, they got between 50 and 60 applicants for a controller position that a CPA was, I want to say the CPA was required. They had Big Four applicants with CPAs applying to this job. They rated the quality of the candidates they received from this job posting as a 9 out of 10. Nobody can deliver that kind of results online, but it had a lot to do with that job posting was well written. Here's one that I got to tell you drives me totally crazy. The economy's changed. We have to sell candidates. If you have to sell candidates, please make it easy for them to apply. And one caveat. What we don't want to do is send every applicant to your email address. How many of you right now manage an email address where your candidates flow into your Gmail account or your Outlook? I can't imagine a more stressful situation if you're staffing up an accounting firm and managing all those applicants inside your inbox. We got to get them out of there. On the flip side, we need to make it really easy for someone to apply. Let me show you how not to do it. I've blacked out the names here to protect the innocent. But this is just the first page of one of our clients who are job posting application process. Here's page 2, and there's page 3. All in, I think they had something like 45 questions that they needed to ask. And the drop-off rate is incredible on something like this. If you're asking more than 2 or 3 questions, you know, guys, no one's going to apply. If you're using your website to capture applicants and you're asking them to enter work history or educational history, I mean, let's look at what they're asking here. Add a cover letter. There's the EO information, which isn't even necessarily a requirement. Skills. Let's list our skills. Employment history drop-down box for all. Starting rate of pay. Reference 1, reference 2. How did you hear about us? Source drop-down. Nobody. When you ask the source of where somebody found you online, we realized at Monster.com that those are accurate about 20% of the time. You got to have a pixel on your site that will tell you what the source is. So this is a top 100 accounting firm in the United States that needs to staff up, and they're asking people to come and fill out all this information. So imagine if you were a prospective client of ours and you wanted to learn more about Accountingfly services. And so before I took a meeting with you, I sent you a list of 40 questions and said, all you need to do to have a meeting with me is fill out these questions. Then I will give you the sales presentation for our firm. Okay? If recruiting is selling, then let's make it remarkably easy for someone to hear your sales pitch. We have learned this the hard way, I have to tell you. A couple of years ago on Accountingfly, we asked a lot of questions. We asked people to build a profile. Then we realized this age group, millennial accountants, they're not going to do it. So we ask first name, last name, are you a CPA? Then upload a resume. We are adding 2 questions to our site this week. How many years of public accounting experience do you have, and are you work authorized in the United States? So for those of you who use our applicant tracking system, you're now going to be able to sort out the candidates that you don't want to engage by years of experience in public accounting. Really excited to roll that out. But even then, these are 3 quick radio button questions that we're going to ask. When we removed this barrier on our own site, our applications, they doubled. So we highly encourage you to have your apply flow through Accountingfly if you use Accountingfly, and if you don't, remove all the questions from your website and have a very, eliminate as many questions as you possibly can. And by the way, having your, And what we're really talking about here is an applicant tracking system, a CRM for candidates. And there's a lot of good ones out there. I'm going to provide some names of some products that you should check out. We have one, but we don't require our customers to use it. If it's useful, then use it. If you'd rather use another product, that's fine. We're in the candidate sourcing business, and we source candidates into any applicant tracking system out there. So one last note on this. With all candidates applying into an ATS now, you just eliminated a lot of email workload. You're not managing candidates from your email inbox. They're now in a safe place, like an applicant tracking system. You want every candidate to go to the same place. Even your college recruiting candidates, even the resumes that people hand you on the street when you're just walking around and someone says, hey, you look like a recruiter, I'm going to give you a resume. They all need to go in one place. That's a major time saving and can be a major elimination of data entry, and I'll tell you why. So this is ours. This is one of our clients, Ashley & Associates in Austin. When you're on their career page, they sell their firm. You know, there's a little bit of sales language here, and they have a link to Accountingfly to apply. So that would go back to their profile, and when the candidate applies, they would apply in this apply flow right here. That's applying on Accountingfly. That's a screenshot of that. So all candidates are routed to Accountingfly, to Ashley's posting. They apply, and then they go into the applicant tracking system, and I'll show you what ours looks like. We've actually recently just updated ours, but here's managing applicants inside Accountingfly. The blue dots represent new candidates. Later this week, you're going to actually be able to sort by if they have public accounting firm experience or not. You can create custom tabs that reflect your actual process. So imagine if you have a college process, you might want to add a tab called on-site interview, on-campus interview. But at least now you have a pipeline view of your hiring campaign. You know how many you have applied. You will always have a high amount of rejected because we're recruiting online, and recruiting online is really about finding the quality candidates, and you're going to get a lot of noise, and you'll have to process them out. You can apply a star ranking. You can add notes. You can have your colleagues review the candidate. You can have your colleagues review the resume. Okay, so now we're using a tool that's a lot simpler than managing out of email. You can actually, even in our system, and most are like this, you can communicate with the candidates through the system. Some of our clients like that and some don't. They just like to see the email address and contact them directly. Obviously, you want to screen and prioritize the candidates. Again, one of the biggest feedbacks, and for those of you who are our clients know, we almost always build features based off of feedback from our clients, from our administrators and HR clients. Because you guys are out in the trenches, you're fighting the battles, and you send us back feedback of what needs to be improved in our applicant tracking system. So that's why we're rolling out the sorting capability so you can prioritize those with public accounting firm experience. Not all of your applicants will have public accounting firm experience or even a CPA. We see a lot of general ledger accountants that don't have public experience on Accountingfly. That's okay, but they're not your candidates, probably. So when you get the applicants, you get them in one place. Obviously, you want to prioritize the ones that are a fit. And then you have that second round interview, have them in your office, do it over Skype. Make sure you're hitting your talking points that are answered by your 5 questions. Or if you're not doing the interview, make sure the person that is takes the first few minutes of the interview to sell the firm and paint the vision. Candidates, by the way, parenthetically, we asked the candidates, young CPAs, what the number one factor for them was in their next job. And there were two answers off the charts. Number one was work-life balance, and number two was the mission, culture, and values of the firm. So if young CPAs are telling us that that's what they want, don't even ask them a question in an interview until you tell them your sales pitch, your recruitment pitch that must answer how do you address work-life balance issues. It doesn't have to be fewer hours. It just needs to be how do you deal with it. And secondly, what are the values of the firm? What is the mission? What is the vision? So make sure as part of your process you have that as a script and that you teach that script to anyone who's interviewing for you guys. Add your notes in your applicant tracking system. Obviously, if there's extra interviews, you can add your, instead of printing resumes for each candidate, you can just have the other partners log into Accountingfly or your personal ATS, whatever you use, have them download the resume and add notes inside the ATS. The idea here is we don't print anything. It's all in the cloud, and we're not dealing with paper and data entry. My favorite aspect of using an applicant tracking system is actually this. It's the benefit of all this branding and all this hard work is starting to build candidate pipeline. Yes, maybe you made a hire for that job, and maybe you didn't, because in this day and age it's hard to hire CPAs. However, what you definitely will build is a pipeline for the future. And that's really important because it's going to prevent crisis hiring. It's going to prevent the panic that I hate. Everybody hates that feeling. And what we do know is that on average, the average turnover of CPA staff in public accounting is 20%. So 20% of your staff is going to leave every year if you're average. So start building that pipeline now. Put that pipeline in folders in your Accountingfly ATS or any other ATS. Organize your folders however you like. I would recommend organizing them by location, by skill set, and by timing. And let me explain what I mean. If you have multiple offices, obviously you might want a folder for the Tulsa branch. And obviously we want to categorize by skill sets. The Tulsa audit, file, the Tulsa tax file, the Tulsa consulting file. But also you might want to organize by when you should be following up with people. So the Tulsa audit file 2018 follow-up. Let me tell you why this is useful. Let's take it back to college recruiting. So when you recruit at the local campus and you do an on-campus session, they give you the resumes in PDF of the people that you can choose from, the people that drop their resume. So what do you do with those resumes? A lot of people will build an Excel spreadsheet. A lot of people will put them in a file folder or a binder. Our clients send those resumes to us, and we import those resumes as profiles in your Accountingfly account. Now you've really deleted some data entry from the process, and everybody's in one place, even your college recruiting. A lot of people asked us, is there a way to integrate with these college on-campus hiring systems like Simplicity? We can't. It's too big of a project for a company to take on. I think in the accounting space, it would be incredibly expensive. So the best that we can do to make up for this is we have our clients send us the PDFs, resumes, and our team of accounting student interns in Pensacola uploads those resumes into your account. What's really cool though is, you're on campus, you're only going to hire a few of those students. A lot of them are going to go to the Big Four. Well, what do we know about the Big Four? Well, according to the Big Four, 80% of the students they hire this year will be gone in 3 years. Yeah, and a lot of them are going to go to private industry, but if you have been keeping in touch with those students because you're organized and you've got them in Accountingfly, then the odds of you cherry picking those students when they make the move at that 2-year mark are very high. And we have a lot of clients that are doing that. And by the way, it seems like the data is telling us that the students make a move at year 2 and year 5. So if you're on campus in 2016, you make a folder for your, for the follow-up in 2018. This is the group of students that in 2 years are going to be getting ready to be seniors at the Big Four, senior associates, and you're going to want to hit them up. It's incredibly useful strategy, and it's gratifying too. We've had a lot of clients who were with us in the early days, and we told them this was our strategy, but we're sort of selling the future. And a lot of them have called back and said, we're actually making hires from the Big Four following this. You need a process to close. You need an offer template. You need a process to work with your team to work out the salary details. And the more proactive you can be on comp, the better, so that you're not stuck having to go round and round internally to make the decision. And I'm not an expert on that side of it. Actually, all of you probably know more about how to maybe improve that process than I would. But what I'm telling you, what I do know is things move really fast. People are typically dealing with multiple offers, multiple hiring opportunities. Don't lose somebody because you're stuck waiting for decisions at the partner level in your firm. Have a process to close a candidate. When I worked at a software company out of school, they sent me an offer letter. And in that offer letter was, it was sent in an envelope that had 2 little gifts. Number 1 was a Tiffany pen to sign my offer letter with. Number 2 was a CD of a local band because I was moving to Austin, Texas, and they were kind of selling me on the the fact that it's the live music capital. I love the class of them sending a pen. They probably bought them in bulk, and the staff assistant in HR sent those with every single offer letter that went out. But what a touch. And closing is hard. I would assume that you're not the only employer that the candidate is talking to. Little touches can be part of your process and can be extraordinarily effective. And onboarding, that's a whole other conversation. But I can tell you what some of the best companies in the world do around onboarding, like Silicon Valley companies that are trying to really compete in that ultra-competitive Silicon Valley area. They have team members reach out to the new hire before they start, send them emails telling them how excited they are to be here. When another onboarding best practice I heard is when the new person starts, okay, everyone that was involved in the recruiting process is there waiting for them when they start. In their cube or their office, has some posters and some swag from the company when they start, and that day they are integrated into their work team and not left to fend for themselves. We deal in an industry that skews high on introversion, and introverts aren't going to proactively just make friends with everybody on their new team. That's up to you. And we see a lot of people leave and go back to their previous employer because they didn't sort of integrate into the team properly. We actually wrote a book with a Silicon Valley company called Gusto that's in the accounting space as well. But they were named the Bay Area's top place to work last year. mean, they're competing against Facebook and Google, and they won. And so we wrote a book with them with a lot of these best practices, and I think that's still available, but it has a lot of these really cool onboarding tips there. Okay, so that's really wrapping it up. And I know this is kind of an informal conversation, you know, and I apologize for being all over the place, but there's a lot of interesting topics to cover here. You know, if we could kind of summarize things, I would say this. You might have a great place to work, and you are probably an excellent salesperson for your firm. But we are in a battle for talent, and the only way to get it done is through a great process. You know, a process to build content and to write quality job postings, a checklist of where you're going to market your job postings and your content, then a checklist of how you're going to react when you get an applicant. You must react quickly, and your team must react quickly for the oncoming interviews. You've got to push things along. You know, I know most of you are in the HR side, but it is extremely frustrating for us when we send candidates to CPAs and they sit on the candidates. And I know some of you feel that frustration too. We got to move quickly. You're going to have to pay at the top end of the market for CPA firms in your area. You're going to have to move quickly to give offers. You want applicants in the same place where it's easy to get them and it's easy to add information and find information, and it's very easy to recruit those in a talent community, a talent pool that you didn't hire today. And the cycle repeats itself, rinse, wash, repeat, right? So that is our presentation for today. I will hang on for another few seconds if there's any questions that you have. We don't have any questions now. Give it a second and we'll see if anybody has any other questions. There's something I'd like to ask of you before we wrap up, and that is my email address is jeff@accountingfly.com. If you would like any, one thing I would like to ask you is to provide feedback. Was this useful? Did you learn anything? What did I say that you aren't doing? And if it was redundant or if you thought it could have been better, I'd love to hear that too. Obviously, we are trying to do recurring webinars with you guys, and we want to bring value. What else would you like us to talk about? Onboarding, recruitment branding, writing job postings? We'd love to hear from you. Well, that's going to conclude our presentation for today. Thank you so much for your time. I hope wherever you're at, you're having a fantastic week and a great weekend ahead. We appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.